Oh, Angel's going to call in.
This is Lyle.
Hello, Lyle. Can you hear us okay?
Yep, I can hear you pretty decent, Nathan.
Okay. I just want to, I guess I'll introduce you real quick here, and then we'll move into, I'll give a little background, and then we'll move into the discussion here. This is the Firesteel Park. I got to turn that off. Do you know how to get it so it's just looking at them and not at me? Or is it automatic? There we go. Okay, this is the Firesteel Park discussion. Just a background on what's going on with Firesteel Park. We're still moving forward with the dredging project. There is going to be a contract for dredging presented to council, probably the first meeting in March. And we're going to start moving through the design, and we needed a spoil site next to Lake Mitchell, and Firesteel Park's been identified as one of the better locations because of its size. It's over 50 acres in that area, and what we're trying to do on our end is get ahead of any planning that would go on if this does become a dredging site. We want to have a plan to show people what it would look like afterwards, and we're going to present that to the board at the next meeting. But today we're going to just get some more input from our board. Within a board meeting, we've met with a few board members outside of this meeting to get some input. We've gotten input from the Trail Committee and some others. I'll let Lyle kind of share how we got to this point, and what we have on the who we have on the phone is Lyle from Confluence, and I'll let him take over. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Nathan,
Yep.
and appreciate the opportunity to talk with the park board here. So I've got a little bit of feedback to come in, so maybe Nathan, if you want to, we might just have to deal with it here, but.
Could you turn off your mic?
That might do it. Let's give that a shot.
Is that working?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So, well, What I'd like to do is kind of just take you through where we're at in the process a little bit and get everybody an update, talk about the things that we've heard to date, and then walk you through the current concept, where we stand with it, and talk about things that we may want to consider yet as this gets refined and modified moving forward. So like Nate mentioned, we kicked off in the beginning of January, and what we're really trying to do here is as Nate alluded to, just really preliminary planning, just to kind of set a visual of what the potential of this site might be down the road. So while we're kind of looking at the details of things, it's really a high-level kind of planning effort at this point, and just to kind of establish a vision for the future. So what I've pulled up here, you should be seeing is some of the initial information that came from Nate and the city as far as what they saw for potential programming of the site. So some of the things that came out of the kickoff meeting that we had was the outdoor kind of winter recreation components. So sledding hills or tubing hills, maybe some kind of snowboarding and other winter activities that could kind of parallel with that. We talked about an outdoor ice rink potentially being part of the project. And then we talked, in great deal both with the initial kickoff meeting and with the trail committees, obviously, regarding the existing trail system, both on the Firesteel site and kind of around the entire park or lake itself, and how this would tie into it. So, and with that, we talked about the usefulness of those trails, both as their current capacity and how they're really valuable as that introductory mountain biking trail system, but also the winter activities with the snowshoe and groomed cross-country ski trails that are out there, and figuring a way of how all that fits into the future plans for this site as well. Then in addition to that, we obviously are aware of the cabin project that the NGSU students are evaluating, and kind of the master planning work that they're doing with the lake, and then the jetty project that has been planned down by the boat dock area as well. So some real good kind of in-depth conversations program-wise as far as that's concerned. So in advance of our kickoff meeting, then one of the things that we did is we wanted to get a handle of what this site would look like as that potential tubing sledding hill for winter recreation. So we went through and just did some kind of regional and even kind of beyond regional comparisons, and this should load here shortly, of tubing hills, just to kind of get an idea at the same scale of graphic as what we're showing in kind of this planning, what that looks like both as a visual, but also as a footprint and approximate hill run versus hill height and all of that. So I'll run through these quickly here, and if we want to come back to them and kind of review it in any further detail towards the end, that I think we'll have the opportunity to do that. So this is a park down in Sioux City, one that both Nate and I were familiar with, Cone Park. And this is, if you're familiar with where the mall is on South Sioux City, this is kind of just across the interstate at that first exit of the mall. So this is actually a recent kind of park development where they took an existing hill and built in their tubing runs at the bottom of the hill, and it actually is kind of, it doesn't show up in the aerials because it's that new, but bottom of the hill there's a warming house and rentals facility and the parking, and then adjacent to that is a chilled outdoor ice rink then as well. So you can kind of see what that looked like both from bottom up, top down, the rise and run. So it's about a 95-foot drop from the top and a 600-foot length. And kind of as we looked at comparables and looked at some of the kind of guidelines that we could find for establishing these sledding hills, it was that 1 to 20, 1 to 30 max run, or 20% or 30% max run. That kind of was the typical. So you see what this visual here looks like in plan graphics, that kind of relationship, and compare to kind of the Firesteel site and what the concept we're showing. It's fairly it gives you a visual of what type of sledding facility we could accommodate potentially on that site. Some others, this is a Denver project that Nate was familiar with, and it's actually really neat in that it's the only free kind of terrain park for snowboarding and kind of beginner snowboarders in the country. So it actually has a high point on the hill with kind of a split path, one being for sledding and tubing, a little steeper with a shorter run, and then one being a little flatter with kind of these terrain pieces built into it for snowboarding. But again, the same scale of plan graphic here kind of shows you that footprint and what that takes up and what the potential for this site could be, on the winter recreation side. This is a local one that some of you might be familiar with. This is actually in Sioux Falls at Great Bear. Their sled hill has a little bit quicker drop over a shorter run, but the ski chalet sits here. This is actually the ski hill, and then the parking falls in through here, and then the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill here, with that magic carpet return up to the top of the hill that kind of runs parallel to the hillside. And then we looked at just kind of sledding only hills. A couple of them that I was specifically familiar with. This is in a park in Sioux Falls, kind of near Lincoln High School, Tut Hill. But this is just a bring your own sled. There's parking at the top of the hill and at the bottom, and then kind of a natural ice rink with a warming up bottom. So you can kind of what that hillside looks like, the steepness and slope of it, and the opportunity there, just for kind of bring your own sled type of sledding. And then another one more in the center of Sioux Falls, kind of near the VA hospital. It's Stellarbrook Park is where that falls. So that was some due diligence on the outdoor recreation, winter recreation that we did. So with that, our next step was to kind of start to fit the parts and pieces onto the Firesteel site. So the jetty that you see is shown kind of in the approximate location where that's planned. The cabins are dotted out on the existing kind of little park site on the lake side, and that's kind of where those have been identified as kind of the landing spot for those. And then what we did is knowing that we had, 1 million cubic yards plus or minus some to deal with on this site, we started to kind of take a look at the rough shaping of the hill and what we could do and accomplish with that material on a real kind of thematic look at it. So you see the kind of dashed lines that are through the site. That equates to 10 feet of elevation change approximately at each one of those contours in through here. So we set the hill up with kind of a peak at this point, and then we were kind of cognizant about how we were orienting the sledding hill. in relation to the sun angles, trying to keep in the northeast direction so that we could maintain the snow a little bit longer in the seasons, and we'd have less melt occurring. So those runs are kind of oriented to the northeast, and that orientation allows for if there's the warming house, kind of marina hybrid building maybe that falls somewhere in through here, that you have good viewing to those activities that would be occurring in the wintertime. So you'll note that the ring road around through Firesteel is kind of broken, and we are suggesting a reroute of that access down to the south. And what that would do is allow for kind of more continuous trail connection in and around the lake and into the entire Firesteel site itself, and kind of make this kind of one uniform or continuous park area. Potential then, maybe what we were thinking is with that road being realigned, it might give some access for development then into that property to the south, and it really kind of disconnects and keeps the vehicular traffic separate from the trails that you're seeing in the yellow throughout the park then. Some other features then, I mentioned the trails, and what we tried to do is set up multi kind of levels of difficulty within the park. So the green being the easiest, the blue being moderate, and then the black being a little bit more of a difficult climb. So for winter recreation, we'd see the cross-country skiing probably primarily occurring on the lower levels around the hillside. But then there's opportunities for snowshoeing or the summer trails to kind of come up and traverse to the top of the hills or to the secondary knoll that we've got kind of shown in through here. On the north side then, we want to try to capture a lot of the runoff from the hill before it gets back into Lake Mitchell. So the water that's coming down the sledding hills would be directed into a series of ponds. So these could be kind of naturalistic looking ponds, with vegetation in them. The trails can kind of wind in and around and through and kind of give it another unique experience on the property, as far as what that's like, and kind of some buffer from both the drive as well as kind of the lake side of the property. So what you're seeing kind of from the multi-purpose facility here out to kind of this point in through here, we're showing approximately about 3.5 miles of trails right now, represented by the yellow. And I think what we're showing here is fairly sparse as far as the trail systems. I think there could be a number of additional kind of pathways that lead through this as we get more into the detailed design of the park itself. But I think this kind of gives good representation of the potential framework for the main portion of the trails on the site. A couple of other things just to note then, with that the vehicular circulation coming along the south, we know that there's a lot of desire to still get access out at least a ways out to this point for either fishing or maybe parking in a trailhead type of access. So we're maintaining a spur of that roadway coming up and in to some potential parking and a turnaround on the north point. So with that, that's kind of where we're at and the components and pieces that have been talked about as program element. it's exciting to really kind of dig into it because there's a lot of opportunity here, especially with the volume of earth that's being moved and how that can be shaped. There's a lot of examples of great public park spaces that are developed in conjunction with major kind of infrastructure like efforts like the dredging project here. So to be able to kind of plan this with you and to kind of think forward and to have this planning effort be somewhat of a driver for the work in the placement of that fill material is really a neat opportunity. So looking forward to kind of seeing how this develops.
Thank you, Lyle. We'll just go ahead and take some input now from the board. We've kind of presented the plan to date with meeting with the various groups in the city, and so we'll just kind of open it up for discussion, and then let's see where that goes. Thank you. Anyone can start if they would like, or
I just got a question on this all looks really good, actually. Like when I was growing up, you never had nowhere to go snowboard. You had to go to Sioux Falls, whatever. This is like my kids' dream to have somewhere to go and do stuff. So that all looks great. Being older, my thought is, do we have like numbers from Sioux City or Denver? Like what kind of revenue are we looking at as far as like, because we're going to have to staff places. All this construction is going to cost a ton of money. We get all that, but what kind of revenue are we looking at? Are there going to be like concessions down there, rentals for tubes, all that kind of good stuff? Do we have numbers from Sioux City and like all the other places that we're kind of basing that off of?
Yep, we haven't dug into the business plan aspects of it yet, but we'll look at that, whether or not we want it to be just kind of an open to the public type facility like what we have, or if we want to get it more organized, and if we need to lease it out so someone else can run it, that would be something that we'd look at. We do know the campground is doing very well. We know adding the cabins is going to help us out. We know we're going to have revenue from the jetty as well. So we're kind of hoping all that together will be will draw somebody to come in and run that for us. Yep.
My only other thing too is just so I'm understanding where exactly that is that like up by Windy Point?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, perfect. That's all I have.
So I have a concern about using the soil. So we're dredging the soil from the lake to get rid of phosphorus. How are we going to keep that from leaching back into the lake when we're building a hill right by the lake?
Lyle, you can comment if you have any information on that, but I know we've talked with multiple dredging firms at this point, and they dig it out, seal it up, they cap it off. I don't know how they do it with either a clay material or something else. And then go ahead, Lyle.
Yeah, that is far from my expertise, but as we were preparing for kind of the interview on the lake project, I had some really good conversations with the team that we had together. They coincided pretty well with the concept development, but there'll be a lot of kind of fairly complex engineering with the hill as that gets placed. They described it as kind of, shaping a pile of pudding, which I think is fairly accurate. So there'll be some, it's going to be more than just making a pile and dealing with it. There's going to be drainage, under drainage that goes with it, kind of creating a bowl and capping that groundwater so it can't leach across. Probably some collection and pumping that has to occur, and then control of the runoff off of the site. Once it's placed and stabilized and capped, all that material, we want to make sure that that water doesn't, either go off on the surface and carry phosphorus on the surface, or into the groundwater and migrate across. So that's all something that in the plant, the final execution of the earthwork, that needs to be accounted for. But there's there's methods to doing it as far as I'm understanding. So it's my understanding. So just making sure that that happens will be the next step.
Generally, they do this adjacent to the lake that they're dredging. I forget the name of the one near Omaha Airport, but we actually did a site visit there, and the dredge material is just sitting right across the road right there. So, what lake was that? Carter Lake. Yep. It just depends on whether or not it's mechanical or hydraulic, which hasn't been determined if we're doing a combination of both or one or the other. The other site that we have is up at the Kelly property, so they would have to do the same thing there to keep it from getting back into the Firesteel Creek and back into the lake. So either way, the land that we have available is within our watershed. Lyle, do you foresee areas of the split like that night? You could, yep. So, we'll be going after several recreation grants to get a lot of these projects done. That's why we kind of got to wrap up our planning so we can start applying for grants, because we know the project's starting to pick up, the dredging project, and the water line's going out to the cabins this year, so we could potentially have cabins in next year if we can get the funding for that. So a lot of this is moving pretty fast now and starting to pick up. And but so when we start actually designing those actual amenities with the board, like the cabins and those things, you'll have this guide, and then we can talk about what we want to see, what type of experience you want to have. Do we want to have lighting? When we get to the hill, do we want to have lighting? But that would be once we've received a grant for that hill as well, because we'll be asking for grant funds for that as well. Does that make sense? We'll be able to determine that later.
What's the smaller hill to the side for? Is it just a shorter hill, or?
So, yeah, so this main hill would be probably the tubing hill. So the bottom of that hill is probably closer to this point, and then this allows for the run out so that we've got adequate space to kind of decelerate. This would be maybe that terrain park area or free sledding where you could just show up and come and use this area at your own pace. That's kind of what we were alluding to there.
And were you talking about the second knoll, or is that?
No.
Oh, yep. Okay. Any other questions or comments? And so what we'll do, there's no action to be taken on this tonight. We're taking our last input from you all, and then we'll bring back a kind of a concept design that probably at our next meeting. Lyle, does that sound about right?
Say that again, Nate.
Would we be able to bring that back at the next meeting next month, or the final? Or is that too soon?
We may be able to. So yeah. So our next step is to kind of make any final tweaks here to the plan, which a plan graphic you're seeing in front of you, and then we intend to do kind of a 3D illustration of this. We should be able to get a draft turned out in that time frame. I would anticipate to get both done. So yeah, I would anticipate that.
At least a draft, or maybe the final by the in a couple months yet.
Yeah, definitely, certainly. Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, I think we have all of our questions answered. Lyle, thank you for your time this evening.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Great talking with you.
Bye.
Yep. See you later.
Second.
Okay. You have, let me go ahead and try and pull this up. Okay, in reviewing the end of the year for last year, you can look right here. We're down in revenue about 161,000, which is to be expected and better than we were thinking at the beginning when we were closing down. So, and then if you look on page 2, our expenses, we had 600. It shows 678,000 left in expenses. 170 of that was moving funds from the rec center project to the roof project at the ice arena, so that we weren't permitted to spend. There was about 300,000 in salary savings just because we were slower than normal, and we also had a hiring freeze there for a little while. And then the remainder of it's just, lower costs in chemicals, fuel, repair and maintenance, and those items, just because we weren't quite as busy as we expected. So overall, we did very well. And then for this year, 2020. Nothing really to show here for this year, since we're just kind of getting started. Nothing I really wanted to nothing I had to point out that let me see if I can. Really haven't gotten started yet, as you can see here, because they haven't closed out last year. So there really isn't anything to show you today. We'll review January again next month. Any questions on those? I can go straight to the bills. Just want to show here $25.75 for a scrubber replacement at the rec center. A $13,400 bill for this was the roof. This would have been the roof project completion and the remainder of that. the total project was right around that 150,000 mark for the roofing project, and that is complete. Don't think there was. Learning to multitask here. Okay, and the $7,400 right here is for the ice arena compressor repair and maintenance agreement for annual maintenance at the ice arena. And that would be all.
So moved. Second.
Do you guys have any questions on Kevin's report? Thank God, I didn't read it, so I'm happy.
I don't know.
We've just been doing some tree removals when we can, some repair on equipment, and picnic tables, dumpsters, that type of stuff. About a week and a half with the cold temps, we've been trying to do a lot of stuff indoors. Got our bucket truck inspected, and we got to make some repairs with that. We're kind of down the truck right now. Can't be used until we get it repaired. Made some improvements over at Pat and Young, put up new LED lights and some hand dryers. And any other questions? Kind of keeping it short.
We're going to start to wind down at the ice arena. We got one team that's had their last practice yesterday, so that's going to start to slow down the next few weeks. We got the state girls tournament, U14 next weekend, a couple figure skating competitions, and the men's league tournament coming up in April. So if they keep those hours where they are, I don't have schedules for them yet, but their anticipated hours, we should have about 80 more hours that we can bill for that. So that will help out. Open skate and bumper cars still doing good on the weekends. We did $1,000 a couple weeks ago. Last weekend we did $720 just on Saturday, and then Sunday was slow. That was right in the middle of the Super Bowl. But we've had about 16,000 since the beginning of the season. Open skate, bumper cars, and concessions. Rentals are doing pretty good too. I got 13 now for the rest of the year scheduled as of now. And we're at 5,333 from the beginning of the season. Middle school will be done on February 26th. Still cleaning a lot. They're still got practices going and games. Next week, another team drops off. 2 teams drop from 3 days to 2 days. Ice maintenance weekly. We did get a new hot water holding tank, $5,725. That's a 200-gallon hot water tank that holds when we fill up the Olympia. That bottom of that was rusting out and starting to leak. So we got that a couple weeks ago. And I'm gonna start doing quotes on turf on Drake, compressors for the north rink to put in the budget for next year. And I got a drag picked out on a mower that was approved for the council for this year, so those will be coming in the spring. Questions?
Yep, real quick, I want to show you what we're taking to council on Monday for bike trail. Our bike trail committee came up with a bike trail map or plan for shared roadway. I'll show you a couple pictures here and then we can move on. But shared roadway would look like this, where you have pavement markings in there. So you don't have to remove any off-street parking, but you just let the motorists know that this is a shared roadway. Here's the map for the city right here. The green lines would be shared roadway. The red lines are upcoming pavement projects for bike trail. And the pink lines are existing bike trail. As you can see, we've got it all throughout the city, and we're trying to, work on connecting north to south. This is a project that has to be approved by council since it's a road project, and so that's why we're taking it to there on Monday. Just wanted to get you updated there. The other item on my agenda, on my report, just to let you know, we did reach out to the South Dakota National Guard to come in and prep our spoil site, whether that be Firesteel Park or another site or both. We're getting them ready to come in and actually do the demolition and get that started whenever we have a dredging design in hand. And I'll take any other questions for any of the other items. Mm-hmm. Okay, we put the plan right in front of you so you can follow along. I'll try to just kind of summarize what we have. If you have any questions as we go along, again, we've been working on NDSU with this for a while. I finally got them to wrap this up so we can get this to you this month. I need this because I need to go after grant money for a lot of our projects, and that's going to start next month. And so I will just kind of start on page 4. Again, some of the goals that we set out for them to help us with is to create a marina, look at cabins, the amphitheater, prioritize, some characteristics of our existing facilities, choose and repurpose public access natural areas, landscape management strategies and upstream watershed, create, the biking and circulation plan, review current water management strategies and also funding strategies and the economic impact. Page 5, just a little bit of history. Page 6 would be just a kind of a base map, look at our recreation amenities and our gaps where we don't have amenities were pointed out as well, where it's more natural. We are doing very well in that area. We pretty much have amenities throughout the entire lake. The public engagement process, again, we looked at the water quality as the most significant factor that came out of our public engagement. The importance of a trail system and how it is a strength of ours, and we want to maintain that. We looked at services that we want to provide, and the public's, said they wanted a restaurant, cabin rentals, fishing, boat supplies, boat slip, jet ski rentals, and those kinds of things. There's 174 boat owners that are willing to rent boat docks if it's available. We get calls, and people are looking forward to that as well. So there is a demand for that. Page 8. Sorry, I went to 6. So I was on 7 there. All right, 8. Again, this is just kind of showing, some feedback where we had these signs up and people could comment and put dots on what they wanted to see at these parks and amenities. The current on page 9, again, just looking at the low bank heights to make sure we're putting facilities in the places that are best suited for them. Again, Sandy Beach being a really good place for a beach, and that's still is our best location for our main beach. We do have other beaches around there, but that's kind of our biggest one. Lakeside sloping on page 10. Again, flat areas are easiest for new development and construction, and that's what we're looking at, those blue spaces. And as you can see, Firesteel Park is very flat right now, and that's going to change with putting spoil material there. Page 11, just looking at the shallow water for cattails and swimming beaches. If there's an ongoing maintenance plan that we would like to see with the dredging design, and that could mean drawing down the lake a little bit each year to allow grasses to grow. It could be one option that we have. But then that just kind of shows you where the shallow areas are, and I'm sure this is an old map because the island is covered in orange, and that's not correct. But the circulation plan on page 12, we just looked at bicycling around and where we wanted to do the shared roadway, which is in kind of the yellowish green. The purple is new projected bike path that's going in with the Highway 37 project that they're going to be doing in 2024. And there's going to be a bike path that would go over the spillway. There'd be a bridge going over the spillway, and it'd also be lighted as well. So that's something that's being planned in the coming up. We also want to make sure we put a bridge or connector. They showed 2 little red arrows down there by the campground. Either one of those locations would be good, but a bridge that connects Kiwanis Park and the campground would be ideal for pedestrians, not for vehicles. And then the blue is existing bike lane that we have. Even though the one along the railroad we would like to see paved, and we do have that in the plan that's going to council on Monday. Page 13 kind of shows you the design elements for the circulation. I kind of showed you some of those pictures that we were showing council, and also where the bridge location might go and what it could look like. And it would be an elevated bridge where boats could go underneath. Character zones is kind of the meat of the plan. The pink zone would be kind of your non-motorized activities. These are better suited for pedestrian connectivity. The bridge, it's not closed off to motorized traffic, but most of the activities that we're putting in there would be non-motorized. The active recreation site is kind of like our current site, more for your family and small group events. We have our nice shelters there with Sportsman's Club and day camp and playgrounds. We want to continue to maintain that. And then we're putting the motorized activities up in the blue area, and we talked about, that is the best location for jetty. And also, if you see in the survey, that's where most people wanted to see a marina. In the purple, again, that's our flattest area for beaches. We want to continue to maintain that. And then our passive recreation sites, more of your neighborhood parks, and we want to continue to maintain that as well. Page 15, again, this talks a little bit in detail about what I just mentioned in each of those areas. Page 16, the same. Page 17, again, talking about the maintenance and repurposing of areas, mainly just keeping those small, lots, I guess, in those neighborhoods as natural as we can, in maintaining some of our open space as unchanged. And then the blue areas, maybe some less mowing in those areas. And they show that on the next page, in page 18, on where we could possibly hold back on some of our mowing, and something that Steve and I can talk about moving forward. Page 19 kind of gives you some pictures of what the marina could look like. Page 20 shows you kind of the social event center, again, updating the amphitheater with some type of seating. I like the natural look with the grass and the seats, the way that picture shows on the top left. But keep it as kind of your outdoor camping, kayaking, pedal boats, those kinds of activities, separated from the motorized activities on the other side. And then page 21, we talk about water management strategies. Again, we're looking at dredging, either hydraulic or mechanical. We're going to get that determined with the dredging design that we're going to start here in the next month. And then lake segmentation is just a concept of idea of using our inlets as our last location to collect material. So we never have to dredge Lake Mitchell again, but we just dredge these localized areas. It doesn't really show what's going on upstream, but this was more focused on in-lake management strategies. Page 22, again, the do nothing chart there shows that the phosphorus levels continue to go up all the way through, I think that's 2030 there. We're going to see continued increase if we don't do anything with our lake now, and the costs are only going to continue to rise. Page 23, our economic impact. Again, we were able with NDSU to look at these. Let me just take a drink. To look at these numbers, we have a $63 million in increased property value of nearby homes. Comparing that to the rest of the city, that equals over a $1 million tax value. Microsystems, we know, do affect home values by 32%. And the current proximity effect to Lake Mitchell is 58% increase in property values for homes within 500 feet of the lake. The value of a clean lake, again, increased property values, we could see up to $93 million with a $1.6 million tax value and an increase of $542,000. The survey results show that current spending is about $1.2 million for people that are visiting from 30 miles away. We could see that increase to 2.9 with a clean lake. And currently, our lake, we feel, promotes 19 jobs from those spending money from 30 miles away within the city of Mitchell, and we think that could increase to 44. And then page 24 and 25 are the funding strategies for Lake Mitchell, just different ways we can look for funding to get these projects moving forward and done. And then in the appendixes would be our survey results that you can view if you would like. And with that, I'll open it up to questions. And if there's any edits, we can also bring those back as well. Are you kidding? Any questions or comments? We would probably have to reseed them and repurpose it. Yep. We're actually in a public meeting right now, letting people know, and they've had a week since Monday to review this plan. So. I did send it out to some of the stakeholders, so, I mean, they've actually seen it, and I let them know that we were having the meeting. Yeah. Questions, we'd be entertain a motion to approve the plan. And as we go through working on these projects, of course, we'll get into the specifics of projects as we get to that point when we go after funding and design. You would approve any design work that we do of any projects moving forward. This is just a guide to help us.
Second. Aye.
We haven't had a permit for anything that doesn't have to do with liquor, noise, street closure, or fireworks. And so this would be cross-country meets, cancer walks, disc golf tournaments, those kinds of things happening on city property. Want to make sure they have insurance. I wrote in a fee. That's just an idea. We can change that right now. We don't have a fee for this. I don't think I have anything else really to point out there, but this would help people, make sure that they have their insurance that they need, and that they kind of abide by the rules and work with us on with their events. The fee, I'm sorry, let me get that a little closer. The fee is right here, $3 per event participant or $300, whichever is lower. Except for fundraisers, which we talked about previously, we generally waive for nonprofit fundraisers on parkland or even in shelters.
Do you have any, you don't require a deposit or anything now in case they wreck something, or?
We have not been, Angel, we haven't been requiring a deposit, have we, for shelter rentals? No. Mainly this year, the less that people are coming down here, the better. So it requires to come several times, to drop it off, to pick it up, or to give it back, or to tear it up. But it's just too much of a hassle, because we haven't had any problems that I'm aware of.
So moved. Okay.
We just had a couple of updates with that. I highlighted both of those. Jeremy, if you want to comment on the field prep for the painting.
For the football fields, that requires more than just laying out and painting with our drive painter. All the hash marks and numbers that can't get the primo in it, so the paint can last longer. So we put in there that we would do the lines and all the hash marks at the beginning of the season. The user group will do the numbers and continue with the hash marks if they still want them. We will do all the outside lines and 5-yard lines throughout their season, but we just added in that they would continue to do all the hash marks.
And then the,
Dakota Bulldogs football. They rent the old soccer fields for some games.
the other change is the ice arena fee structure. We're, instead of having items in here for the associations to come in and create an argument about whatever it is it might be, we're just going to have them focus on the contract only. And so we put that in there. And then for groups that are just one time, it's the 125. Once you get into multiple rentals, we prefer a contract at that point. But and they would talk to Jeremy, and we'd bring a contract to the board. But that's really the only changes that we've made.
And multiple rentals over 4 or 5. I got a group now that's probably going to do 12 to 15 rentals this year. And right now they're scheduled every Saturday through March to come in and rent the ice for 2 hours. So we'll kind of do, if you're doing 1 to 3 or 4 rentals a year, we'll keep it at 125. If you're doing multiple, if you're up in the 10 to 15 range, we'd probably figure out a different fee for that.
It'd be the 75 right now that we charge associations.
Yep. We're just going off of the hourly rate for figure skating and hockey because they're doing, I think they got 14 scheduled that they've already had or already scheduled through March.
And remind me if you need me to get something on the screen, just remind me. I'm looking at 2 different things and I'm forgetting. So. Okay. We're reverting back to our original COVID guidelines since the mask mandate was lifted with the city. The way we're wording is increased spectator occupancy is permitted if associations require masks. So we're still asking at this point, unless the board wants to make changes at all, the 6 feet distance. Once we get within that 6 feet, we're asking them to have masks. For occupancy, for occupancy levels. This affects the swim meets, the tournaments over at the ice arena. I can't think of anything else. Okay, all these agreements are all standard with no changes. The only updates would be the fee increases. For this one, it was 308 to 385. Oh, I'm going to pull it up. There's the total down there, but no other edits to the contract. These contracts have all held up without any complaints or no issues, and so we haven't had to change it. These are the concession stands at Ice Arena, Pepsi Complex, softball, or not softball fields because we're running them, but the Cadwell and Drake. And that fee is $3.30. Again, just updating the fees, $20 per athlete, $10 for 13 or 12 and under, and then $34 for the diamond field, and they're for per field. I'm sorry, I should remove the diamond in out of that one. That was from 32.
No, it was 34 last year.
Oh, was it?
The only thing that goes up is the dollar amount. Went from 19 to 20 for 13 and up, and 20 for.
That's right. We had a $1 increase for these two fees, and the 34 did stay the same.
No, and we talked about moving them up, but with everything going on last year, the last thing we want is for players or associations to not be able to come because of a raise in fees. If you had a hard time last year, your family had a hard time, and maybe something to cut back. This is something to cut back for a family, and we don't want that.
And they don't use lights. That's why the lights are not in this one. Again, fees here, 20 and 10, 34 in the lights, no increase on the lights either. No other changes. Same here, $20, 10, 30. Why does it say 35?
$34 per player, but baseball charges $35 per light.
Oh, $35 for, I didn't see that, sorry. 34 for baseball, that's correct, and then the lights are 35. The lights for, and do you want to explain why the lights are higher than soccer?
More lights. They use them a little bit longer. It just costs more for the baseball lights than the softball or soccer lights.
It threw me off. Same here, 20, 10, 34 for the field, and then $20 for the lights. We're finally looking at filling in the pool at the rec center. That's what this contract will do. It'll give us the design for that. It'll also give us a little bit more design work into the finishing touches there. Also the entrance of the how we're going to do the entrance of that room. It's going to be part of that 24/7 fitness area. I don't know if there's anything really to point out on the contract itself. The fee is $20,000. They do anticipate the cost of the project being around that 175 to 200 range total, and then we'll have about another 70, 75 hopefully for equipment in the room. So we get some new cardio equipment. Any other questions, or Thomas, would you like to weigh in on it at all?
Yeah, if you guys have questions, I can answer them.
I can't remember, did we redo the HVAC for that room already, or?
Oh, yeah, no, that's included in that. Let me just show you where it says HVAC right here.
I just missed it.
Right here.
Second.